Hello, Dean of Partnerships, distinguished guests, graduands, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really pleased and honoured to have been asked to deliver the citation for the conferment of an honorary doctorate to Lemn Sissay, MBE, on this day. Really is a huge privilege to be offering this award to Lemn Sissay, who's a genuine role model to so many of us, a kind of North Star, a really wonderful example to our graduates, someone whose life history can, has and will give hope to so many of the children, young people and adults who we work with. His life story, as chronicled in his genuinely beautiful memoir, My Name is Why, is often painful, sometimes even harrowing, but like a phoenix, Lem has risen from the ashes, not just as a survivor, but as a person of strength, creativity, passion, as someone who's used his multiple talents to enrich the lives of so many of us. He was, as many of you will know, born to an Ethiopian mother in 1966, and then shockingly given the name of his social worker, Norman, didn't suit, and placed in a foster placement with a white middle-class family until 12 years old. And then, when the people who he had considered to be his parents abandoned him, he lived unhappily in 4 care homes. As Lem has often said, care is an oxymoron, as care is what children in the state system get so little of. Indeed, my first job was as a residential social worker, and I was desperately underskilled and underqualified, and all too often we place the children who have got the most needs with the least trained, least experienced, worst paid, least valued workers, where in fact these are the children who should be society's top priority. Sometimes it's the simplest things we take for granted that could be so painfully lacking. In Lem's poem, Invisible Kisses, if there was ever one to whom you could cry, who would gather each tear and blow it dry, who would offer help on the mountains of time, who would stop to let each sunset soothe the jaded mind. If there ever was one to whom, when you run, will push back the clouds so you're bathed in sun, who would open arms if you would fall, who would show you everything if you lost it all. My goodness, kids need that, and so many don't have that. I've worked for over 3 decades with kids who've been abandoned, placed in care, adopted too late, and for many of those years in the Tavistock fostering and adoption team, which I think, and kinship care team, which I think pioneered a lot of this work in this country. And I know very deeply how many children have felt something akin to Lem. He said, one of the worst things that happened to me was that the big thing I needed was a hug, and the last thing I got was a hug. Instead of hugs, love and care, he received suboptimal psychological input, abandonment, adversity, racism, trouble with the law. Yet somehow this man has risen to be one of our most accomplished poets, official poet of the London Olympics, MBE, Booker Prize judge, Vice Chancellor of Manchester University, to name but a few of his accolades. He's also a man with a big heart and a deep soul, and I love that he says that his mentor was Bob Marley. I hate to rub this in, Lem, but actually I saw the great Bob Marley 4 times, but I'm much older than you. His life and memoir have so much in it that's moving. The terrible feeling of not really feeling one belongs, of being different. Yet somehow he found the courage to keep hope alive. He managed to cherish good experiences, the foster grandfather who loved his difference, the teachers who offered him hope and kindness and who enjoyed him, the social worker who told him that what happened was not his fault. How often do we have to say that to kids? Small acts of kindness water the seeds of hope and of possibility. And we all remember the kindness of a person in our youth, and what a difference that these little tiny acts of kindness can make. He described his foster care, and the lack of understanding of his cultural needs, how she would tear her way through my afro head each morning before school while I cried in unimaginable and excruciating pain. The sound was of a fire crackling as it ripped through my head, and I was told I have a sensitive head. And no one in his life helped him understand such basic needs. until the hot chocolate singer, and I don't think you could call a band hot chocolate these days, but the lead singer was a man called Errol Brown, who his midwife foster mother met in hospital, and Errol Brown gave him his first ever Afro comb, and not until he was nearly a teenager. Lovely gesture, although as Errol Brown had less hair than me, we can question the generosity, but he so needed more of this input. Lemn Sissay has emerged refinding and being proud of his heritage as the child of an Ethiopian family. And in these days where we're at last taking more seriously issues of race, he wrote, "If you can see the sepia in the sun, shades of grey in fading streets, the radiating bloodshot in the child's eyes, the dark stains on her linen sheets. If you can see oil separate on water, the turquoise of leaves on trees, the red and flush of your lover's cheeks, the violet peace of calm seas. Why do you say you're colourblind when you see me?" So powerful. Yet the small moments that stayed with him, that Lemn writes and talks about, of genuine care, generosity, have clearly left their mark. And if we can all remember the people who have helped us on our way, I remember well a foster child I worked with who kept a picture of the one good foster carer, kept it in a suitcase for over 10 years. And you in the audience who are graduating today, you are and will be that rare kind of voice for so many of the kids and young people that you work with. They might not show you gratitude. They might throw it back in your back. They might throw your efforts back in your face. They might struggle to trust you, but your care and thoughtfulness is all akin to water and fertilizer and the warm sun that helps grow the seeds of psychological and emotional well-being. In the big issue, Lemn said, nobody wants a child to feel as if there is nobody. That's why we have birthdays, weddings, funerals, and Christmases. I can remember so many Christmases in this children's homes and other festivals where these kids were left on their own without anybody who they knew to look after them. And Christmases for them was not like the Christmases we hear about or see on billboards or TV adverts. So what happens when no one does this, Lemn asks? What happens when you move from one family to another and have no proof of who you are? Everything we protect our children from is what's served on these people. In an interview with the Financial Times, he said it's the responsibility of talent to have ambition and the responsibility of ambition to appreciate and find his talent. What a message, and how you've lived that. He says, I do to this day think that success is being able to look in the mirror and know that I'm all right on the day. I don't believe I've made it. I believe that I'm making it. I believe that I've found my past so that I can live in the present. It's the most important thing to me. The books and the plays and the touring and the gigs and the speeches and the cash, it all pales into insignificance when compared with knowing that I didn't do anything wrong and then I'm going to be okay now. That is so moving. And I think in our 100th year at the Tavistock, with a legacy of people from John Bowlby, Wilfred Beale, etc., we do believe here at the Tavistock, thankfully, in the possibilities of genuine growth, genuine recovery, resilience and rekindling of hope. And Lemn Sissay is a really amazing example of this. He's come through not unscathed, but with what the great psychoanalyst who was also at the Tavistock, Michael Barlint, called fault lines, like the faults in a rock, that we all have in our personalities. He's come through with his head held up and his heart open. He asked in one piece, why is there not a tissue giver, a man who looks for tears, who makes the finest tissues and offers them for free? Many graduating today might consider your role to be something of a tissue giver for the people you work with. Lemn was asked, if your 20-year-old self could see you now, what would he think? And he replied, he would laugh and say, no way, that didn't happen. But Lemn, it did. And it did for so many of today's graduates. And it can for so many equally ill-treated but talented young people that our graduates will work with. And so, in homage to the gifts that you had bestowed on the world, and the amazing example you set us all, it's a huge, great pleasure for me to commend Lemn Sissay, MBE, to you, Dean of Partnerships, for the award of honorary doctorate of the University of Essex. Thank you.